Welcome to Weekly News Highlights, where we wrap up your week with a glimpse back into what went on in the past week. I'm Kim Dami in Seoul. This week, Japan began its test run of releasing the wastewater from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. This sparked concerns and anger both at home and abroad that the two-week trial means that the actual release of the contaminated water is imminent. South Korea and China relations become fraught over comments made by the Chinese envoy to South Korea, who said Seoul is betting on a Washington win over Beijing. This Tuesday, June 13, marked the 10-year anniversary of the much-beloved global superstars BTS. The members, their fans, the army, and Seoul City celebrated this special day in their own unique ways throughout the week. Here are pictures of a Korean surfer based in Jeju Island of South Korea. He went out to the ocean not to enjoy surfing this time, but to show one-person protest against Japan's plan to release Fukushima wastewater into the Pacific Ocean. As a passionate surfer and a sea lover himself, he says the release plan will do no good to the ocean or the people. He plans to hold more of those one-person demonstrations related to marine leisure sports. And salt corners at local supermarkets are being emptied out, also because of consumers' fears over the wastewater release plan. In fact, one online shopping website says salt sales in the past week rose 14 times compared to the same period last year. South Korean authorities say there is no need to worry about purchasing the item or its price as of now. All these phenomena here in the country stemmed from Japan's launching of a two-week trial of releasing the wastewater because the test run means its complete release plan is imminent. For details, let's first turn to our 신세벽.
On Monday, Japan began a two-week test run on the process for discharging nuclear contaminated water from the crippled Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant. During the test run, the plant's operator, the Tokyo Electric Power Company, will mix fresh water and seawater and see whether a specific volume of water can flow to the sea. Ensuring safety is also on a checklist. TEPCO will also see if the shut-off system works well in the event of an emergency. Although there won't be any actual release, the start of the trial operations means a release could take place soon. In the actual dump process, the treated water, which has been decontaminated of all radioactive substances except tritium that's inseparable from water, will be mixed with seawater. Last week, Japan sent some 6,000 tons of seawater into a 1-kilometer-long underwater tunnel built in the nuclear power plant. The tunnel will be used to guide the contaminated water to a point about 1 kilometer offshore from the plant. Japan plans to have its water release system ready by the end of this month. A final report from the International Atomic Energy Agency on its inspection is expected in late June. Once everything is completed, Japan plans to begin the release of the wastewater sometime this summer. While Japan said it would not dispose of the water without consent from concerned parties, it is facing fierce opposition both at home and abroad. Last Saturday, Japan's industry minister Yasutoshi Nishimura met with representatives from local fisheries. There, they expressed grave concerns over the plan, saying the move is fueling anxiety about the future of fishing operations. Those from the neighboring countries are also worried.
If our consumers knew that nuclear radioactive water from the Fukushima power plant were dumped into the Pacific Ocean, Filipinos will be afraid to eat any marine life we have caught here in Manila Bay, because the dumped water is bad for the environment, for the fish, and of course, can harm our health.
Hong Kong is also among those concerned. On Monday, Hong Kong's Environment and Ecology Bureau said it will enhance quarantine inspections on Japanese seafood, saying any necessary preparations such as procuring additional inspection equipment have already been completed. 신세벽, Arirang News.
Japan's wastewater release plan is especially sensitive among the South Korean public over fears that the fishery products from Fukushima may enter the country. Prime Minister Han Duck-soo made it clear that import ban on such seafood will stay in place until the Korean people feel safe to consume it. Our Han Sung-woo has this report.
Day 2. Once again hanging over the National Assembly's questioning of top officials from the Yoon Suk-yeol administration was Japan's plans to start releasing radioactive wastewater from Fukushima into the Pacific Ocean this summer. In fact, just a few minutes into the session on Tuesday, the ruling People Power Party's Yoon Sang-yeon brought up the elephant in the room.
Any changes made to the import ban of fishery products from Fukushima?
To which Prime Minister Han Duck-soo answered with a definitive no.
No changes have been made and there won't be any moving forward either.
Despite his answer, the main opposition Democratic Party of Korea did not shy away from pressing on the issue of whether the water itself from the region, once treated, is truly safe to drink and thus harmless to marine life and the environment.
This wastewater from Fukushima, is it really clean? Can it be consumed?
We're all familiar with the purification plans and standards, aren't we? If everything meets those standards, I will drink it myself.
Also covered during Tuesday's interpellation session was this year's lack of tax revenue, which Finance Minister Chu Kyung-ho told legislators should not be secured through extra tax law revisions, saying now is not the time considering the shaky economy. Han Sung-woo, Arirang News.
Relations between South Korea and China turned out fraught and tricky this week. It all began with the Chinese ambassador to South Korea, who openly took a swing at the Yoon administration's foreign policy, saying it favors the U.S. While meeting with South Korea's opposition party leader Lee Jae-myung last Thursday, Shin Hae-min said that it was wrong to, quote, bet on China's loss. Let's take a listen.
Some are betting that the United States will win and China will lose. But clearly, this is a misjudgment.
The Chinese official then added South Korea was entirely to blame for the many difficulties in bilateral ties, saying that Seoul will certainly regret it later. In response, the next day, South Korea's foreign ministry summoned the senior Chinese ambassador, warning that such remarks were absurd and provocative. Seoul's first Vice Foreign Minister Jang Ho-jin said the remarks run counter to the Vienna Convention, as it can be considered as an attempt to intervene in South Korea's domestic politics. Now, under the Vienna Convention, an international agreement on diplomatic relations, sovereign countries have a duty not to interfere in a country's internal affairs. Then China called in the South Korean ambassador to Beijing in a tit-for-tat move. Seoul's top office also weighed in, urging China to step in and take appropriate action. For details, here's our Peunji.
The presidential office says that it's waiting for China to take appropriate measures in response to remarks made by the Chinese ambassador to South Korea, Shin Hae-min, who last week said that it would be wrong for Seoul to bet on Beijing's defeat, apparently criticizing Seoul's foreign policy leaning towards the U.S. A senior official from the top office said in a press briefing on Tuesday afternoon that South Korea has been saying it will form a healthy relationship with China, based on mutual respect and reciprocity. But the Chinese top envoy has made remarks that sound as if this policy is aimed at excluding a certain country. The official also added that a diplomat's role is to focus on boosting relations and abide by the Vienna Convention. President Yoon also reportedly told officials that the Chinese ambassador's recent move was diplomatically inappropriate. During a closed-door cabinet meeting, he also said that the South Korean public is displeased. The White House also weighed in, saying that South Korea is a sovereign, independent nation that has the right to make foreign policy decisions that it deems appropriate. The U.S. National Security Council spokesperson John Kirby said it appears as if there was some sort of pressure tactic being used. Experts say that South Korea needs to take strong action, but at the same time, it should not turn its back on China.
We have to protest and take strong measures against Shin's diplomatic rude remarks. But separately, we also need to work under the table so that relations with China do not get worse. Either by sending a special envoy or through other channels, we should not let relations with China go downhill.
But both countries have yet to find a way to settle the situation, and it appears that the ongoing diplomatic conflict will not be resolved soon. Peunji, Arirang News.
South Korean authorities have successfully retrieved the debris from North Korea's satellite-carrying rocket that fell into the West Sea over 2 weeks ago. Now, the retrieved parts will be jointly analyzed by Seoul and Washington. Our Kim Dami has more.
This 12-meter-long piece of debris from a North Korean rocket was just freshly fished out of the sea Thursday evening. It's a byproduct of North Korea's failed attempt to launch a spy satellite on May 31st. With the rocket failing to reach space and landing in waters west of the peninsula, the South Korean military rushed to recover any remains. However, as this piece was discovered lodged in the West Sea's coastal mudflats, with a third of it buried in the ocean mud, the recovery crew ran into multiple challenges.
The underwater visibility was extremely poor. My sight was limited to the distance of my palm. I had to rely purely on touch.
The diver further detailed the conditions unique to the West Sea. Water currents move fast, and sediment was stirred up as the divers descended, clouding their visibility. The cylindrical shape of the debris also made the mission extra tough. The Navy struggled to find the right place to secure a clamp and wires to hoist it to the surface. The solution was found in securing a clamp into a crack and drilling a hole into the body of the debris to install a U-shaped loop for lifting it. But as they lifted it onto the ship's deck, the top part separated off. Officials reassured that the damage was not critical enough to derail the mission entirely. After being lifted to the surface, the debris was brought to the South Korean Navy's 2nd Fleet headquarters in Pyeongtaek.
Now, this is what was recovered from the West Sea after being submerged underwater for more than 2 weeks. As you can see, there are quite a lot of scratches on the surface, and military officials say that these were caused during the recovery process. They also suspect this to be the 2nd stage of the rocket, but further examination is required to gather more intelligence about it.
South Korea's Agency for Defense Development is joining the investigation. It will also collaborate with American intelligence services, including the U.S. Defense Intelligence Agency, in a bid to answer lingering questions. Of particular interest is the anomalous label on the top of the rocket that reads Cheonma, a syllable short of North Korea's proclaimed name for the rocket, Cheollima. Investigators are also curious about the advanced technology North Korea might have packed into the launch vehicle. Meanwhile, the South Korean Navy continues its search for more debris, signaling that this chapter is far from over. Kim Dami, Arirang News, Pyeongtaek.
President Yoon Suk-yeol is off on another diplomatic mission next week, this time in France and Vietnam. He'll be holding summits with his counterparts for broader economic cooperation. Our top office correspondent Oh Soo-young tells us what to expect.
Embarking on a 6-day trip beginning next Monday, President Yoon Suk-yeol will set out to strengthen economic security cooperation with France and Vietnam. According to Yoon's office, the South Korean leader will hold a summit with President Emmanuel Macron next Tuesday during his trip to Paris to attend a presentation as part of the 2030 World Expo bidding process. Based on their shared universal values of freedom, human rights and rule of law, the two presidents will share their respective plans to collaborate and engage with the Indo-Pacific region, particularly with Seoul elected as a non-permanent member of the United Nations Security Council. Yoon and Macron will discuss global security issues, presumably North Korea's nuclear threat and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. They will also talk business, with their bilateral trade volume having reached $13 billion last year.
While focusing on securing jobs for future generations and economic growth engines, the leaders will discuss ways to expand investment and deepen cooperation in the fields of economy, security, AI, space, high-tech, and future industries.
Yoon will take part in 3 business-related events: a dialogue with young people at the world's largest startup campus, Station F, an investment declaration ceremony, and a digital vision forum where he'll declare an initiative to establish new global digital norms. Next Thursday, Yoon begins his diplomatic schedule in Vietnam, his first official state trip to Southeast Asia since taking office. An official summit will take place on Friday with President Phu Van Thong, followed by separate meetings with the Vietnamese Prime Minister and National Assembly Chair before a state banquet. accompanied by his biggest ever economic delegation of some 205 corporate leaders, including the chiefs of South Korea's biggest conglomerates, Samsung, SK, LG, Hyundai, Lotte and Hana Groups. Yoon will attend 4 key economic events, including a bilateral trade exposition, a luncheon and a forum for some 500 business people. Yoon will also hold a dialogue on expanding research collaboration with young people in digital sectors.
There are 3 key points. First, expanding service and infrastructure exports. Second, supporting solidarity between future generations. And third, strengthening digital leadership.
Yoon's diplomatic outreach comes at a time of geopolitical rivalry in the region and trade uncertainty, with South Korea looking to strengthen its economic and security partnerships in order to pursue its national interest as well as global peace and prosperity. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
As our Oh Soo-young just reported, President Yoon's trip to France involves attending a presentation as part of the 2030 World Expo bidding process. The largest ever number of business moguls and Kpop stars will tag along. Our Kim Do-yeon has the details.
On Tuesday, during a cabinet meeting, President Yoon Suk-yeol showed his determination to win over members of the Bureau International des Expositions as he announced that he himself will be heading to their General Assembly in Paris next week.
179개 회원국이 모두 참석하는 총회에서의 이번 프레젠테이션은 부산 엑스포가 가진 차별화된 비전을 보여주는 기회가 될 것입니다.
This was a widely expected move by the president as he has shown his willingness to back Busan's bid to host the World Expo 2030. The 2-day General Assembly begins June 20th and is the 4th round of presentations from bidders, including Busan's rivals Italy and Saudi Arabia.
The president will also attend a reception hosted by the South Korea government on the 2nd day of the General Assembly and meet with representatives and diplomats to promote Busan's candidacy.
In Paris, there will be a cross-sector efforts from South Koreans alongside President Yoon to strengthen Busan's candidacy. Lawmakers from both sides of the aisle, business moguls such as Samsung Electronics chairman Lee Jae-yong and K-pop icons including Psy will also make special appearances to showcase what Busan envisions for the Expo 2030. According to an official at the top office, the message will center on the world and South Korea coming together as one. Since unless this happens, global battles such as defeating climate change cannot be won. And with Korean culture spreading so widely across the globe, South Korea can be the one country to unite the world. The official added that when the BIA inquiry missions took place in April, the representatives were especially impressed by Busan demonstrating close collaboration among citizens, the government, and the media to win the bid.
지금껏 2030년 부산 세계 박람회의 유치를 위해 정부와 민간, 중앙과 지방이 원팀이 되어 전방위적인 노력을 기울여 왔고 저 또한 해외 정상들을 만날 때마다 지지를 요청해 왔습니다.
The final decision will come out when the member states vote in November this year. According to an official at the top office, of the 179 member states of the BIE, the majority are yet to announce who they will support in the vote. And that means everything is up for grabs. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
This Tuesday, June 13, marked BTS's 10-year anniversary. It's no exaggeration to say that they've become one of the biggest and most iconic boy bands in the world, sweeping music charts and awards and speaking at the UN. To look back on the boys' journey, we have our culture correspondent, Song Yujin. Welcome back, Yujin.
Great to be back, Tommy.
So, Yujin, let's travel back in time to their debut, right? What makes BTS more interesting and special is that their success didn't happen overnight, right?
Right, you're definitely right, Tommy. The boys' journey hasn't been always plain sailing. So when we travel back in time, when the boys released their debut track, No More Dream, in 2013, they weren't signed with one of the big 3 record companies in Korea, known for producing hit K-pop groups since the 1990s. Their management agency Hybe, at the time called Big Hit Entertainment, was a startup label back then. And BTS's rebellious bad boy looks and aggressive hip-hop music presented really a stark contrast to the clean-cut romance-singing K-pop groups fans were accustomed to. So they didn't really see immediate success. The song No More Dream debuted at 84th out of 200 on the Korean government-run Kpop music chart.
I still remember them looking all young and hip-hoppy back in the days.
Right.
Now, actually, looking back, it did take several years for BTS to become a household name, even here in South Korea, right? Then how and when did BTS rise to stardom?
Well, to first talk about how it was actually social media that helped the boys rise to stardom, not only in Korea but around the world. Even BTS's producer Bang Si-hyuk acknowledged that it was social media that played a really big role in increasing the group's popularity. But experts I talked to said BTS's step-by-step efforts over the years led to where they are today.
And even before their debut, they were talking with their fans. They always showed like insight into who they are. They always had their, nowadays we see Jungkook going on a live stream with 10 million people, and back then they were doing it for like just a few people on YouTube. But it's always been that way. And
So the boys were one of the very first K-pop artists to go on Twitter, so this not only really expanded their reach both at home and abroad, they also fostered a really deep, loyal connection with their fans, which we know as the ARMYs.
But honestly, Eugene, I don't think the buzz would have lasted long without good music to begin with. As a BTS ARMY myself, I've always found the music, especially the lyrics, very motivating.
You're right, Tommy. I also think BTS's music is really special, and one of the main reasons is because unlike most hit K-pop songs that are produced by hit music composers, BTS members actually actively contributed as songwriters and producers from when they first debuted.
But you become a voice of a generation because you really put yourself out there, or you put music out there that is very both personal and relatable. Like that's what makes a great pop song or a great, popular hit. So every person can listen to it and feel, oh, I feel that way.
But to really specifically point out one song, it was when the boys dropped their hit song, I Need You, in 2015, that they really started gaining more recognition both at home and abroad. And this was actually the very first song that BTS won trophies at music shows in Korea. And I Need You, in terms of music style, was kind of like a shift away from the rebellious, schoolboy-like hip-hop songs that they've pursued since their debut. And it was something of a more lyrical and trendier music style. And from this point, BTS started talking more about their personal struggles, such as the uncertainties and insecurities that they are facing as young people, and the importance of loving yourself. And I think that this content and this lyrics really resonated with ARMYs around the world.
Their songs and dances are really cool, and it's just great to see the strong bond between the members.
I Need You was definitely a nice transition. Now, I do remember we really started to see them top music charts nationwide and worldwide after I Need You. Then walk us through some of their biggest achievements, and also, most importantly, how BTS impacted the K-pop world in general.
Well, BTS obviously made a lot of achievements, but to talk about one of the most important things that they've achieved, they became the first Korean artist to top the mainstream Billboard Hot Singles 100 chart, and also the first Asian to rank #1 on the Billboard 200. And out of the 15 non-English albums that topped the Billboard 200, 6 are from BTS. And they also became the very first Asian singers to be named the American Music Awards Artist of the Year. And these achievements really paved the way for other K-pop artists to shine on the global stage.
BTS has brought K-pop into the mainstream. K-pop used to be a niche music loved by enthusiasts, but it's now become a universal genre enjoyed worldwide, like Latin or British pop.
And I think that, BTS kind of getting into the industry, breaking in, getting the audience really kind of made people look twice and think, okay, what else is there? How do we, we love BTS. Can we look at the other groups under their labels? And we see,
And it's not just BTS. Nowadays, we're seeing a lot more Korean acts entering overseas music markets, namely New Jeans, Stray Kids, 50/50, you name it, right?
Right.
And in celebration of their 10th anniversary of BTS, there's a huge festival going on here in Seoul, right? Let's talk about that.
Yes, Tommy, I actually visited the site myself, and so Seoul City and BTS's management agency HYBE have teamed up for BTS's annual BTS Festa, and this is an annual event that celebrates BTS's debut with their fans from all around the world, and this year's edition, because it's the 10th anniversary, has reached unprecedented heights. So from Monday, which was June 12th, 8 landmarks across Seoul, including Seoul Island, Namsan Seoul Tower, Seoul City Hall, Dongdaemun Design Plaza, and World Cup Bridge are lit up each evening in purple, which is BTS's official color. And starting Tuesday, which was June 13th, Seoul Island and the Sejong Center began featuring BTS-themed digital artwork on their outer walls every day except Mondays, and both events will continue until Sunday, the June 25th.
Right, I should definitely check it out myself before they come to an end.
Right, Tommy, you must visit because, as you mentioned before, you're in army, and when I visited there were packs of armies all around the world, so you won't regret it.
All right, I'll tag along. All right, Eugene, thank you for your wrap-up today.
My pleasure.
Thank you for watching our weekly news highlights. Enjoy your weekend.